Okay, yeah, we believe it was a crime of opportunity for sure. At the time, Delbert was staying right next door to Mrs. Stewart, not necessarily solely next door, but had an acquaintance that he would stay there. So we believe very much it was a crime of opportunity. Yes, ma'am.
The suspect is in jail right now serving time for other crimes. How does this change the path forward with prosecution in the case, or does it change it at all?
Yeah.
Really doesn't change the path. Mr. Saunders will be conveyed back to Licking County Justice Center to stand trial for these crimes.
Sir, how long was he a person of interest? And, you know, we heard some tips that he's been a person of interest for quite some time. And if so, you know, why did it take this long in DNA?
Yeah, it's a really good question. He was a person of interest, I would say, within a week of Mrs. Stewart's homicide. I came up to the Detective Bureau in 1998, and obviously as a new detective, I had interest in it, and the veterans kind of showed it to me. And for the most part, we all agreed that Delbert was the prime suspect in this case. And the chief talked about a little bit earlier, you know, knowing someone might have done something and proving it is two different things for sure. And can't thank BCI. We would not be standing here today if it wasn't for BCI, especially their forensics unit. They're outstanding. I've worked with them for 30 years, and without them, like I said, we wouldn't be standing here. Yes, sir.
So you said that on the cold cases it would be a yearly review. Why did it take so long for Helen to be added to the NamUs database for missing people and unsolved cases? Because that was established in 2007 or 9, and I believe she wasn't added to that until many years later.
I am not familiar with that database. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's just a nationwide database that they.
Yeah, I'm not familiar why it would have been added. I've never dealt with that database before. I'm sorry.
I believe that may be through the Attorney General's office that does the adding.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you been able to speak to the suspect since the indictment, or in this process since identifying his DNA? And if so, what has that sort of conversation been like, and what has his reaction been?
Yeah, I interviewed Mr. Saunders at the correctional facility prior to his indictment. We spoke for a little over an hour. Mr. Saunders and I know one another. His current case from 2002 was a case that I investigated back in 2002. But yeah, we talked for a little over an hour.
Yes, ma'am.
And he'll be in court tomorrow, I believe.
I don't believe so, no. He'll have to be conveyed back from the institution.
Okay.
The order was, or we sent the request to have him conveyed last week.
Okay.
But I believe it'll be close to 2 weeks before, should be on the court view, his arraignment date, but I believe it's a couple weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Just last question for me. I see that he's up for parole next year. Did that add any urgency to this case into making this indictment? Or did that have anything to do
No,
with
I believe Mr. Saunders was up for parole one prior time to this. I believe it was in 23, maybe he was up for parole. But, I mean, the state would be opposed to any parole for Mr. Saunders regardless of this indictment, so we remain that way.
The window between 1989 and 2021, when the DNA evidence became a little bit more prominent, what were those yearly reviews like? Were those annual reviews just a little bit more slow? Was it more stagnant, just sort of waiting between that time period? What was that like? Trying to get into that window.
You want to do it?
When you look at these cases, especially ones from 1989, we weren't using computers then, so you're sifting through boxes of handwritten notes, handwritten statements from detectives, neighbors, friends, neighborhood canvases. So going through that takes a significant amount of time. And annually, we would unbox all those things and we'd take a review of all that, just, you know, with the new set of eyes, new detectives. and just in the hopes that we would have some sort of break that would lead us in towards a prosecution. Yes, ma'am.
Is evidence pointing that this was a random attack, or I know that she mentioned, were they affiliated with each other, or?
Aside from being a neighbor, just like Detective Vinoy said, we believe this was a crime of opportunity. If there's no other questions, thank you folks for coming.
Thank you.
Do you guys want to change up the camera angle at all? So I'm going to clip this onto.
One ear, so if somebody's on my right side talking, I may not be able to hear you.
That's fine.
Do you mind, Aaron, if I?
No, yeah, you're fine. So you can hear better over here or over here?
Your left ear.
Yeah, I can hear out of my left ear.
Sometimes I don't know my
Okay.
left and my right.
Sir, I'm gonna clip this. I'm gonna clip this to your pocket, okay? So I'm just gonna slide this right here.
Do you live back in the center, or do you still live out in the
I still live in North.
Oh, it's a long drive every day.
Actually, I spend less time driving a day than most people living in Columbus do to get to work.
Yeah.
I guess it's true. So how old were you when this happened?
Do what? Say that
How
again.
old were you when this happened?
I don't remember, probably in my late 20s, early 30s, somewhere in there.
You guys all set? If you could say and spell your first and last name, please.
First name is Dave, D-A-V-E. Last name is Stuart, S-T-U-A-R-T.
And what's your reaction to this news?
I think it's good news, but like I said, we still got a long way to go with this one. It's not out of the woods yet. Talking to the detectives, there's things that they can't tell us yet, and I'm only going to speak for my side of the family. I can't speak for my dad's brothers.